Poppy Playtime is glitchy, and to prove just how glitchy it is, I'm going to try and softlock every single chapter of Poppy Playtime in an average of under 1 minute. The only two rules I have is that I can't use anything Backseat used in his mascot horror softlock video, and I can also only use the environment, so I can't like put a pillow on top of my head or anything to softlock me. Now, while I love to start with chapter 1, that was one of the hardest games for me to find a softlock for, so instead I'm just gonna start on a chapter I'm way more familiar with, which is chapter 2. In my original playthrough, I found so many softlocks in this chapter that it was quite easy for me to pick one that I could start with. So to start, we need to go through the normal gameplay, through Ludwig's door to meet Poppy and turn the scanners on. We then need to open the door and jump down through the slide, which leads us to just before our chosen softlock. To achieve the softlock status, we need to power up the door where we're introduced to Mummy, and like in my playthrough, as soon as we activate the red hand trap, if we simply just run back, the door closes and leaves us softlocked in a time of just about 3 minutes and 5 seconds. But we could do way better. If we start a new run, we can use a strat called hyperspeed swinging, which means we can completely skip any swinging animation and zoom right to the target location very quickly. After we perform this and enter Ludwig's room, we can use the boxes around us to bypass the block they put on the swing, meaning after more hyperspeed swinging and ending the run in the exact same way as the last, gives us a time of around 2 minutes and 40 seconds. But sometimes developers can forget to give a wall some collision, and in this latest version of chapter 2, if you crouch at this wall and walk forward, you will go straight through. And the only issue for us now is that anytime you fall into balance, you will hit a kill plane, and that isn't a softlock. To fix this, which I found by pure accident, if you walk over to where these two walls meet and crouch, you will just rise up, and once you reach the top, you can't move at all, meaning we are completely softlocked. So let's see just how quickly we can pull that off. The first run I had using the same strats cut off a massive 40 seconds from the original best time, but that's not as good as I could get it. So after a ton of more attempts, we were able to cut the time to just about 1 minute and 45 seconds, which is great, but isn't amazing in terms of our desired average. So to fix this, let's try chapter 3. In my original playthrough of this game, I got very close to a softlock very quickly by wedging myself and rising into out of bounds, but I ended up being able to leave that by crouching. And while I love to use a strat like that, that was basically the exact same as what Backseat used. So instead, here's another very simple softlock. This game seems to have a ton of them. And this gave us a time of just below 20 seconds, which is great, but the current average is still over 1 minute, which is quite annoying. And as it's closing in on our goal, let's go with another game that has a ton of softlocks with chapter 4. For me, the first softlock I found in chapter 4 was quite close to the start and happened just before reaching the prison, where you could leave this door before it fully closes. And as it's quite close to the start, let me show you just how quickly we can do it. To start, we need to wait on this elevator, which takes a ton of time, grab the battery to power the door, and then try to speed through the start of the game as quick as we can and reach the area of the softlock. And when we do reach it, we need to be both speedy and precise, because getting through this door can be quite difficult if I'm being honest. But when we do end up finally getting softlocked, it's done in just under 2 minutes. But we can incorporate a few more strats. The main two strats we can include being grabbing the battery from quite far away, which saves a couple seconds, and most importantly, escaping the really long elevator ride using F11. And if I use these in a run, it cuts down the time to just under 1 minute and 20 seconds, which once again isn't the best for our goal, so I went searching. The one I did end up finding was about half the distance to the original softlock. The only issue with it is that you have to be quite precise when you're getting into the softlock, or you may just be able to wiggle out of it, which I found in multiple attempts I tried. But we could just hope that doesn't actually happen. After a ton of attempts, I was finally able to get in the right position first time and cut down the final time from 1 minute and 19 seconds to an amazing 38 seconds, which is basically half of the original time. And for the first time, we are below the 1 minute average. The bad news now though is that we are onto the chapter that is the most fixed, which is chapter 5. Compared to every single other chapter, this is one of the most fixed games I've seen in a long time, which could end up making a softlock very difficult to find if I didn't already find one in my first playthrough. And it's also not too far from the start of the game. So to get into the base of the run, we need to basically just complete the chase, because once that's done, if we fall and then swing into this room and bring this cube over, we can just use the environment against the game by going behind this big cube, which softlocks us in just about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And this seems like a lot for a small description that I just gave, but the initial chase is just that long, and there wasn't anything before that or in between it or after that I could find that was this close to it. And the biggest issue now is that to reach the 1 minute average, the first chapter of the game would have to find me a softlock that would take me 9 seconds to achieve, which is basically just impossible and is never gonna happen. But let's see what we can do. With chapter 1 being like 5 minutes long on a bad day, you would think that there aren't many softlocks, and for a lot of the time while I was attempting to find one, that seemed like it was the case, as I couldn't go out of bounds in the latest version, I couldn't softlock on the train in the latest version, and the only one I knew that actually worked was the one Backseat used, but obviously, as it's against the rules, I can't use it. But finally, after hours upon searching, I realized the issue. So you see, about a week before chapter 5 released, they pushed out a cool update rollback, which I initially glossed over because why would a game get rolled back to an update that is half a decade old? No one knows why, but they did it. And so while I was also verifying what version I was on, I was able to find a way that speedrunners get out of bounds in this version of the game, and in turn it showed me a way to softlock. Here's how. For me to softlock myself, I first need the blue hand, which is unlocked after entering this code and then listening to this tape. But after that, it gets much harder, as we need to do the following. We need to first set our FPS to 30, reload the checkpoint, run out of the room and open the main room, turn back into the hand room and grab this chair, and after that we need to input the same code that opened the door to close it, jump over the barrier towards the main door, and then once we hold down left click and uncrouch, it gets us out of bounds. And after going through this wall, we are now completely softlocked. Sub 120. Even though you can get your hand back, and even though you could do this puzzle, there we are. Well, you can open this door. We don't have the key to open this door. So let's see if we can optimize it. To start with the optimizations, we can try and input the code as quick as we can. And even if it can be done quicker, it doesn't really save a lot of time. And then we can instantly reload to skip the door opening. And then once we put the tape in, if we pause while holding E, it completes it whilst being paused. And then by pause buffering, we can change our FPS and reload as soon as the prompt disappears. Meaning after doing the same exact things as the end of the first run, we can get a sub-minute time on paper. That's what we want to hear, and there's so many pauses in that. Oh, I'm gonna have to like remove the load times and stuff like that. But as there was so much loading in, the final time was 34 seconds. And even though it isn't 9 seconds, it's still a giant step up from the disaster we had in chapter 5. And now with all games completed, our overall average is at 1 minute and 5 seconds, which is quite above the goal I had. So how can we improve it? Well, there are 2 chapters that have a time over 1 minute, which is chapter 5 and chapter 2. And what I love to say, there's a really cool time save in either. Chapter 5, even speedrunners don't get to the same place that I got softlocked much quicker than me. And chapter 2, any softlock I could find isn't enough to save the 25 seconds that we need to save for it to go down to 1 minute. But what if there was a completely different softlock I could use that would save a ton of time? And you can probably guess which chapter that's in. Now, I found the base of this by watching an old chapter 2 speedrun, but once again, out of pure dumb luck, me making a stupid mistake was the main reason I actually found a specific softlock that I'm going to be doing. Instead of going down to Poppy, they would grab the vent and the trophy, leave and close the door and run backwards while moving left and right a bit, which would let them go through this wall. But that doesn't really help because, as I said, getting out of bounds could just get you killed. But for me, I ended up completely messing it up, and when I grabbed the trophy, I just accidentally collected it. So that meant I had to think of a different thing to grab on with the red hand, and I chose the tape. But instead of going through the wall, I accidentally just... And this is just far past the furthest point possible. And here, not only do our hands not appear, but for us to even get out of this softlock, you need to completely close the game. But let's see just how quickly we can get this done. Now, for the final run, other than a couple of seconds I lost at the start from not running instantly, we do some perfect swings to and from the key. Open the door, grab the vented tape, close the door, and keep running backwards, which eventually softlocks us with a time of just under 50 seconds, which removes nearly a whole minute from the initial time I got for chapter 2. And with that said, the average for all games is closer to 50 seconds than a minute, meaning we have completely thrashed it. And as well as that, we stayed in the rule set, which is also amazing. But if you do know any other softlocks that I could have used in this video instead of these ones that are just quicker or closer or have an easier way to get to whatever, do let me know. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.